Bill O'Reilly from BillO'Reilly.com, where he runs his podcast, which he announced, and I don't even think you asked, quite honestly, Bill. I mean, I charge a lot for my appearances, but I understand that I am going to be on BillO'Reilly.com on his podcast, I think on Monday. Is that right, Bill?
Monday, we have you slotted in for like 7 hours.
No, that might be a little inconvenient, but and boring after a while. But
Beck, you?
Yeah, I know. But thank you for that, Bill. BillO'Reilly.com with his podcast. You can become a member and get his opinion. And Bill, let's before we get into the healthcare bill, which I think everybody really is anxious to hear your opinion of, you're starting your own newscast.
Yeah, I mean, we've been doing that for a while, the No Spin News. That's what the podcast is. And explain something to me, because you're more technically savvy than I am.
Yeah.
So we do a daily No Spin News, which is an encapsulation of what happens that day, and I bloviate about what I think of it. It's like the Talking Points memo, but expanded to about a half an hour. Okay, so they put it out in a podcast form, and it becomes number one on iTunes. The number one podcast on iTunes.
Yes.
What does that mean?
Oh, shut up. Then what this means is Bill O'Reilly is fishing for a compliment.
No, I mean, if you were to tell me or ask me, O'Reilly, right now go to iTunes, I would go, what?
Okay, so iTunes is where if you are doing podcasts and you are not self-contained, but you're really pushing them out through iTunes, which is what most people do. It is where all of the podcasts from all over the world kind of hang out, and the number one place to go find them. So it's like you were having,
and you go under podcasts Beck, and then your podcast shows up. Is that how it goes?
Yes, but we don't do podcasts like that you're doing. Yes.
That was just an example that I didn't want to use my name because it would sound egotistical.
Oh, my gosh.
So I used your name.
You can't avoid sounding egotistical. You cannot avoid.
We were the number one podcast, so that's a good thing. Right?
Shut up, Bill. Okay, but you are launching a TV show, like I've kind of launched a TV show, where you're really doing a show. It's not you in your underpants behind a microphone.
No. I mean, we have, we're looking to do about 40 minutes. We may do it, right now we're doing it we just put in a video. That looks pretty good, but we're looking maybe to expand it to a studio. We're not sure yet. We'll see what happens. A lot of interest in it. Did I mention the iTunes thing? There's a lot of interest in it.
Okay. All right. So, Bill, let's get right to Obamacare and what happened yesterday.
Well, I mean, the Republicans in the Senate come out with this vision of national health care, and right away, of course, every Democrat doesn't like it. There's two things in play here. Number one, it's all about giving free health care to Americans who are poor or sick, and they can't afford their premiums, healthcare premiums. That's what this is all about, fundamentally. So the Democratic Party wants to give free health care to people who don't have a lot of stuff. And the Republicans say, no, we can't do that. It's going to bankrupt the nation, and it's not fair to the working people who have to support the free health care by their tax money. It's not fair to the $20 trillion debt. So we'll give you tax credits, which means that you'll get refunds if you work. But the problem is a lot of people don't work. And we're not going to give you freebies anymore. We're going to cut back on that and through Medicaid. So right now, Medicaid, which is state-run, has unlimited payments to people to give them free health care. Republican bill says no, there are going to be limits on that, and the states are going to decide. So every Democrat says, oh, no, we want the free stuff, so we're going to vote against it. That's essentially what's in play here. All of the other details are so confusing and so crazy, your head will blow off. So I'm not an expert in medical, what's good and what's bad. But the essential war is over giving Americans free stuff. That's the essential war.
Right, I got that. But maybe you're only sharing this on your iTunes #1 podcast. But the way this is playing out politically, the Republicans have abandoned their post of hey, we don't believe in free stuff, and we don't believe in a government-run program. And they're not cutting. In some places, they're actually adding to, and they're just reducing the amount of spending. It's not even a cut. It's a reduce the amount of future spending, of future increases.
Right.
And so the question is this really even a repeal and replace of Obamacare, or is this just window dressing?
Well, I think that if you look at what the Republicans have come up with, it's certainly a different health care law. So you wouldn't have to buy health care, number one. Okay? So right now you have to, where the government finds you. Number two, employers wouldn't have to provide it. Right now they do if you have more than, I think it's 50 or 49 employees, something like that. And if you don't, they fine you. So that's gone. And then the other stuff is basically, pre-existing conditions. That's still there. All right. So if you want insurance and you have a disease, you'll get it. You'll get it. They can debate it all day long. There are 4 Republican senators who don't like this bill, will vote for what they say: Rand Paul, Mike Lee, Ted Cruz, and Ron Johnson. The Republican Party needs 2 of those to come over. I think they'll get them. They'll make a few tweaks, and because if they don't, then the Democrats will succeed in holding on to Obamacare. That's what it's all about. So if the Republicans don't pass this new bill, Obamacare will remain law.
So do you think that Mike Lee, Ted Cruz, Rand Paul, Ron Johnson would be unreasonable to withhold their support?
Depends what their value system is. If you're not going to support it, then you're giving the Democratic Party a lot of power.
Bill, for example,
it's like Lincoln said, and Reagan said, you got to get a structure in place where you can do things going forward. If you continue to say no to everything, then the Democrats will make a stunning comeback in the congressional elections next year. So they got to take that into account. I don't think Rand Paul is ever going to come over. He's like a gadfly. I think the other 3 will if they maybe make a few tweaks. So I think that there's a better than 50-50 chance the Senate will pass it.
These are just bad bills. That's why these guys they're not conservative bills. I mean, how is it possible Republicans can't do better than this?
You just said,
there's not enough votes to pass a strict conservative bill.
Right, but
in the House or in the Senate.
You just said
enough votes.
But you just said that it depends on what their principles are. If their principles are the Constitution, and they find this unconstitutional, and they find this destructive, how could they? I mean, because you said depends on what their principles are. You will give, if they don't, you will give the Democrats a lot of power.
Right.
Well, that's not a principle. That's a strategy.
Well, it just depends on how you see it. Because if you're going to allow the Democratic Party to gain or regain power, which they would, in my opinion, then your principles are flying out the window because you're not going to have any chance of enacting them in the first place.
Okay, so we have
Reagan and Lincoln believed was, look, I have principles,
right?
And I'm not going to sell them out. But it's a long game.
Yeah.
And if I don't have power, I'm not going to get anything done.
So I agree with that long game. However, the Republicans have, the GOP has really run hand in hand and tried to convince the Tea Party that they were going to repeal Obamacare. And then with Mitt Romney, it became repeal and replace. And that was a major shift there. But I think most voters believed that we were going to get rid of Obamacare, and that's what this president promised. There are people that are suffering all over this country because they can't afford their health insurance anymore. This does not help reduce the cost of health care at all. When you're looking at the Republicans and the Democrats, honestly, what's the difference between the two? 5%?
The goal for the Republican Party is to bring down health premiums for the American people because that translates into votes. But they couldn't do it all in one bill because of the filibuster rule, very complicated. So there's another bill that comes up if this passes that says insurance companies selling health will be able to compete in every state, and the Republican Party says that will drive down premiums. That can't be attached to this bill because if it were, then there would be a level of acceptability that's 60 votes in the Senate. I don't know why it's some arcane rule, okay? But if you do it separately, as a separate law, then it's only the majority, okay? So that's why they didn't attach that. So it's a stair step. First, we get this bill passed, all right, which knocks out all the mandates, knocks out all the tax stuff, and puts in place a structure that Obamacare is pretty much done. And then we passed the bill about insurance companies competing, which drives down the premiums. You see?
I just don't believe that you actually believe a second of that.
I'm just telling you what the strategy is.
I understand the strategy, but I don't believe that anyone in this country actually believes that that is a real strategy behind closed doors.
You don't believe that if this passes, that the next step would be to introduce a health insurance competition law? You don't believe that will help?
Nope, I don't.
Why not? Why wouldn't it?
Why? Who's talking about it besides those four? Besides those four.
Besides the holdouts.
Yeah, besides the holdouts.
Those are the only ones talking about it.
Who's talking about that? There's no desire for that.
Trump made a big deal out of that. Trump made a big deal out of that in his campaign. That was like one of his major issues, that there should be competition.
He's not making a big deal out of it now.
Yeah, he has the bully pulpit.
He also made a big deal about repealing health care and having government pay for everyone. Well, that was another big thing he made in the campaign.
Okay, so hang on. I got to take a quick break. Back with more with Bill O'Reilly. You can get his podcast at BillO'Reilly.com, BillO'Reilly.com. I hear it's, I don't know, someplace on iTunes.
It's like number 300 now.
It's like number 300, and maybe a little push from this show, it'll be number one.
Yeah, maybe. I guess we would help it a lot.
Yeah. So anyway, Bill O'Reilly, BillO'Reilly.com. Make sure you join him and buy one of his books. When we come back, we'll get some more on this. Also, want to talk a little bit about Georgia and the 6th District in Georgia. Also, what he talks about in his podcast about a cultural civil war. We'll get more into that in a second. First, this. Have you seen the viral video that with neighbors in New Mexico going and grabbing somebody out of the house, a burglar out of the house, and making sure that they hold him until police come? I remember this from my childhood. This is what my grandfather and my uncle did. There was a guy that was robbing a house, somebody at the edge of the street. They lived on a dead-end street, so nobody ever came down. And there was a woman, a busybody old lady that lived at the end of the street, who, if you came down the street at night, she checked that car. Who was it? It was like a real neighborhood watch before neighborhood watch. And she called and said, there's a car, and it's just pulled in down the street. And I don't recognize that car. I think there's something wrong going on. My uncle and my grandfather got out, and they went down to the house, and it was a burglar. And they took their rifles with them, and they held him until police came. That's the way it used to work. Now there's a viral video that's going around in New Mexico because that's exactly what happened. It doesn't happen anymore. You can not worry about who's driving on the street, praying that there's a woman at the end of the street that's recognizing all the cars, or you can have somebody alert you immediately with a very inexpensive and high-tech revolutionary burglar system called Simply Safe. Go to simplysafebeck.com. You can install it yourself in under an hour. There's no wires or anything else. You pull it out of the box, plug in the base station, and it tells you exactly what to do. I've installed it. It's simple. And the monitoring is $14.99 a month. SimplySafeBeck.com. Get a special 10% discount right now. SimplySafeBeck.com.
This is
the Glenn Beck Program. Mercury. I am really inspired by a story of an environmental attorney who dared take a stand against big business. And it's not any business, it's DuPont. He fought hard to take him down, and he didn't stop until he won. Look at all the politicians who say, we're fighting for you, but they're in the pocket of Wall Street and the corporations that make financial gains while they're sacrificing the safety of the American people. If you care about the air that you breathe, water that you drink, and food that you eat, visit ProjectBlindsided.com and join the movement today. That's ProjectBlindsided.com.
The Glenn Beck Program.
I cannot wait to hear the opinion of world-renowned author, television host, journalist, singer, dancer, songwriter, Bill O'Reilly, Little Billy O'Reilly, as we used to call him back in the 60s when he was singing with Stevie Wonder. I can't wait to hear his opinion on this.
We're already spending a lot of money on design, but I'll give you an idea that nobody has heard about yet. And I'm not sure, but I'm a builder. That's what I love to do. That's probably what I do best. I'm a builder. And we're thinking of something that's unique. We're talking about the southern border. Lots of sun, lots of heat. We're thinking about building the wall as a solar wall, so it creates energy and pays for itself. And this way, Mexico will have to pay much less money. And that's good, right? Is that good?
Little Billy O'Reilly from BillO'Reilly.com. What do you think of the solar wall that would pay for itself?
Oh, man, that would be something. It would be so hot nobody could climb over it.
Yeah.
That'd be good.
Yeah.
About 120 degrees in Arizona right now, so plenty of solar down there.
Well, it does. I don't know if you know this, but temperature has nothing to do with the solar. It's collecting the rays.
See, that's what I was going to say. I have no idea what this does.
Yeah.
But I know there's a lot of sun down there in that basin. So,
what was Donald Trump doing with a solar wall, a brand new idea, and then trying to convince his people? And they laughed when he says, that's good. I think they thought he was joking that, that'll cost Mexico less, and that's good, right? First of all, the math would never work out that way. But what was he doing, do you suppose?
I think he was trying to confuse everybody. That's what Trump does. So he throws this out, and then everybody goes, well, what does that mean? And I think it's probably a diversionary tactic, Beck. I think that might be what that was. But they might. So wait,
because you've talked about this.
You never know. It might say
you've talked about this before as as a strategy, and you have said it's not the strategy that you would use. What? How does that help us in a world of chaos to have a president have that strategy? Help me out with the strategy. What does that strategy get him and us?
I think it doesn't get him anything other than he's tweaking his opposition, which, like, Donald Trump loves to do that. He devotes far too much time in doing that. He loves to tweak them. But he's going to build some part of the wall, and then he's going to slap a little tax on Mexico. Maybe their trucks coming in here have to pay a little bit more, and then you're going to go, that money's going to go to build whatever we're going to build. That's how this is going to shake down. So you put a few solar panels on there, I don't know, but that's the big picture. That's what will happen. Beck, are you still there?
I am. I don't know who is. So how does he think that, who is he tweaking specifically? Do you have any idea with his solar panel that doesn't make him?
And because you remember there was criticism from the progressive crew that the wall would be an environmental disaster because some salamanders wouldn't be able to cross back and forth. They separate some toad families. Right. There'd be the Mexicans and then the Texan toads.
All right, so he's going after those people who are
about tweaking.
Okay.
Tweaking.
All right. Back in just a second, we're going to figure out why Bill O'Reilly has sold 4 million books, and also Georgia 6th District next.
The Glenn Beck Program. Mercury. This is the Glenn Beck Program.
On BillO'Reilly.com this week, Bill has talked about a lot of things. One of them was the Georgia 6th District. The Democrats pinned their hopes on winning that district, taking that congressional seat from the Republicans. It obviously didn't work out that way. Does this mean anything at all to you, Bill?
Yeah, I mean, big California money came into the Georgia district. Folks down there saw that and said, we're not going to have Nancy Pelosi trying to buy the election down here.
Right.
So the Republican congressional candidate won by about 3.5%, and that was a bigger margin than Donald Trump won that district. It's I believe, a suburb of Atlanta.
Yeah.
So,
do you think that if the money wouldn't have come, if the Democrats hadn't have played it the way they did, that they would have actually had a chance? Was this?
Yes, I do. I think that in the big urban areas, there's much more sympathy for a Democratic platform than there is in the rural areas of this country. If you look at the map, Donald Trump won overwhelming counties, and I don't think the Trump people have bailed on him, by the way. I don't think they bailed. Because they understand how viciously he's being attacked and how unfair it is. And I'll just give you one example. I mean, the Coates testimony, and this is a pretty good story. Coates goes in and testifies in a closed setting in front of the Senate Intelligence Committee, the House Intelligence Committee, the House Intelligence Committee. And then an hour later, somebody leaks it to NBC News what Coates allegedly said. I mean, that's a violation of every ethic in the House of Representatives. That means that other people are not going to voluntarily testify because they know that the liberal press is going to get a leak, particularly if it's bad against President Trump. And the other thing is, who knows if that's true or not? People assume that leaks are true. Most of the time, they're not true. That the person leaking may have been there in the interview, may have seen Coates testify. But if they don't have any ethics and they're going to leak it, they certainly could lie about what Coates said or spin it.
Right.
So,
so I want to get back to that, but I want to get back to.
So I don't think Trump people are bailing. Right.
I don't think so either. But I want to go back to the lesson that you think the Democrats might have learned. They were talking earlier about right after I read stories about, well, we should distance ourselves from Nancy Pelosi. I think she has become the Newt Gingrich, if you will, of the Democratic side, that may have played a role in a positive way at some point, but has now so overplayed their hand that they can be used as damaged goods really easily by the other side. Like or don't like Nancy Pelosi or Newt Gingrich, that's just a fact. They can be used by the other side.
Sure.
So is it?
Pelosi's a caricature now.
So have they overplayed their hand? Is it just Nancy Pelosi, or is there something? Is there a shift in the country at all of the overplaying of the hand? Are they tired of just these characters? And if so, where do you think the Democrats are going to go next?
Wow, what a question! My God, yeah. First of all, has the progressive far left overplayed its hand? Absolutely.
Yes.
Have they made Donald Trump into a sympathetic figure, which I didn't think was possible? I mean, I never thought it was possible that people would feel sorry for him. But they are. And they should be, because he's not getting a fair shake, not even close. So sure, the progressive far left wing of the Democratic Party is wrecked.
So where does
the party of John Kennedy wrecked it?
Where does that party go? Do they fully embrace the socialist
well, they're going to have to get their butt kicked one more time, okay? Because all the candidates running against Trump in the next election, if Trump, decides to run, are going to be far left people. Andrew Cuomo, governor of New York, is going to portray himself as a moderate, but he's really not. Elizabeth Warren, she'll run. Biden, if he can get out of bed, will probably give it a try.
I mean, you want to talk about a collection. You want to talk about this is a collection of real losers. I mean, this is Con Air.
I don't know if that's fair. I mean, Cuomo's run New York State
for the nation. Do you think the nation is running to?
I was just going to say he's run it efficiently in the sense that He's not Mayor de Blasio of New York City, is just unbelievable. I mean, but Cuomo's value system is so opposed to free enterprise and so opposed to what I think, mainstream American workers' value system is, that, they're going to have to get thumped one more time before the party comes back to moderation.
So you talked about an American cultural civil war that is going on. What does the future of our country look like, in your opinion?
It's too murky. You know, they had a little ball when I was a kid. You buy it, and it goes.
Magic 8 ball.
You shake the ball, and it goes, check with me later.
Right.
You know, it's just too murky because you don't know. The changes are unbelievable, particularly in the media. The mainstream media, the national media, is collapsing. Scott Pelley, the big-time anchor of the CBS Evening News, leaves his position. Nobody even knows it. Nobody even knows it. Think about Cronkite and Rather and all of that happened. Pelley walks out after 6 years, and nobody knows it. Can you name cable television? I put it on and I watch it now that I'm not in it anymore.
Wait, Scott Pelley left?
Turn it off. I got to watch the Andy Griffith Show.
Yeah.
I mean, Aunt B gives me a better opinion than what I'm getting on the cable news.
No, I know, and honestly, Bill, that's when we were working together at Fox, that's one of the things you and I talked about. And a lot of people said it's going to there's years and years and decades left. No, I don't think certainly not the way it was when you and I were together at Fox. It is totally changed. And most people, everybody here, this is funny because everybody here except for me, they didn't know that Scott Pelley left. And I will go a step further.
Breaking news.
I will go a step further. I believe there is a large majority of this audience who doesn't even know who Scott Pelley is.
Yeah. I mean, that's true. If you go out on the street and say, who are the evening news anchors? And they look at you like, what? So everything is changing.
Do they have any idea, Bill?
Yeah. About what?
About the news heads, to the people at CNN, to the new people at Fox. They have no idea.
They wouldn't be failing. I mean, CNN, their philosophy is bash Trump every day. Okay?
Well, no, but wait, hang on just a second. There is a difference between failing. You can know you're failing and not know how to fix it. You're saying they don't even know they're failing.
No, they know they're failing because they see the numbers that come in every day. It's like a baseball team losing. It's like the Mets right now. But they don't know how to fix it, and they still make money, CNN, because CNN International and all of that. So they're still making money. But if you look at what's happening, that the information flow to the folks, to the working people who aren't locked in on this, they got to make a living. They got to raise their kids. The information flow is almost nothing. You don't get any facts. All you get is a bunch of crap from people who are not even qualified to give an opinion. They don't know anything.
I know.
They throw them on there, and so-and-so is saying this, and you look at them and you go, I could destroy these people in 30 seconds. Okay? I mean, it's just ridiculous what's happening. So that has a big influence on the way people perceive the culture. But the good news is that they know that the Democratic Party and the mainstream national media has an alliance, an actual alliance, all right, to regain power. Let's say that, to regain power. They're working together, and the folks know it. Therefore, Trump gets cut an amazing amount of slack, where maybe he shouldn't. But he gets cut the slack because the people go, the fix is in.
Yeah.
And that's why guys like you and me, when we put up our forums, all right, I mean, we're giving you honest analysis. I am, and I think you are, all right? And my analysis is fact-based, which is why everybody loves me on iTunes.
All right, we got it. You're shameful.
Whatever that is.
Shameful and shameless, really.
Come on, you gotta.
So, are you going back?
People don't know where to find me, and I have to tell them.
I know. Are you going back to television?
I don't know yet. It has to be the right vehicle. It has to be a vehicle that's competitive, and because I'm having fun Just not, I never wake up and go, gee, I wish I could commute to New York City today for an hour and a half and then walk into, a tension-packed cauldron. I wish I could do that. So this is a lot of fun what I'm doing. But I have some battles I want to fight. I have some battles, and if the right forum presents itself, I would absolutely consider it.
All right, Bill O'Reilly. You can find him online at BillO'Reilly.com. You can hear his podcast, which sometimes, occasionally, I know Monday he's got an absolute superstar with him on Monday. And
that would be Glenn Beck, everyone.
Yeah, so I'm going to be on his podcast. Or as he used to say to me, that thing you do on the internet or whatever that is, I'm going to be on that thing that he does on the internet on BillO'Reilly.com on Monday. Right. Join his growing number of listeners and viewers. And Bill, thank you so much for being with us.
All right, Beck, we'll talk to you on Monday, and I really appreciate you having me on the program.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bill O'Reilly.